Your language already knows this. You've said, I can't stomach it. You've said, that was a gut punch. You've said, I'm carrying this on my shoulders. Or, she broke my heart. He's got no spine. That is a bitter pill. I couldn't breathe when I heard. Nobody taught you those. You didn't get them from a chart. Every language on earth has its own version, and they land in roughly the same place. Grief is in the chest. Fear is in the low back and the bladder. Anger is under the right ribs and along the jawline. Worry is in the stomach. Now, that's not evidence. It is for me, but it's not true evidence. So let me be extremely clear about that up front, because I don't want to spend the next half an hour on this, and I don't want you to think that I'm resting all my cases on figure of speech. Language is not proof. Common sayings have been wrong about the body for most of recorded history, but it is worth a question, which is, why did people who had no known thoughts of anatomy, no imagery, no biochemistry, working independently across thousands of years and a half a dozen cultures, why did they all put the same emotions in the same parts of the body? Today's episode is my second chart, the one that pairs the 22 rungs with organ systems in what are called meridians. It's the one that people ask me about the most, and it's the one I've been most careful about because it's the furthest out there on a limb that this show has gone so far. So I'm going to do it in an unusual order. I'm going to tell you exactly what is known, exactly what's traditional, and exactly what's me. Before I give you the map, though, not after. Welcome to the practice. So why does this floor exist at all? Start with what isn't in dispute, because it's more than people actually think it is. Your organs talk to your brain constantly, mostly upward. We've already covered this. It's the vagus nerve. It's the main line, and the traffic on it runs about 80% of your body to your brain. Your gut, your heart, your lungs, your viscera are reporting continuously, and your brain is using those reports to decide what kind of situation you're in. That's not alternative medicine. That's actual anatomy. Your gut is not a passive tube. It has its own nervous system, hundreds of millions of neurons, enough that people reasonably call it now the second brain. I love this stuff. It produces neurotransmitters. It has its own reflexes. It runs without instruction from your head, and it sends as far more up than it goes down. Your heart, which is so cool, has its own intrinsic nervous system too. And heart rate variability is one of the most reliable physiological readouts of emotional state that we have. That's mainstream cardiology. It's not a metaphor. And referred pain is documented, mapped phenomenon. Your heart refers to your left arm and your jaw. Your gallbladder refers to your right shoulder. Your diaphragm refers to the tip of your shoulder. These are established referral patterns taught in every medical school, and they exist because visceral and somatic nerves converge on the same segments of your spinal cord, and your brain can't always tell which one is actually shouting. So, the underlying claim that organ state and emotional state are physically wired together, and that a distressed organ can produce a sensation somewhere else entirely. That's not the controversial part. That's Tuesday. What's controversial is the specificity. The idea that a particular emotion reliably pairs with a particular organ, that grief goes to the lung and fear goes to the kidney. And it's consistent enough to be useful. That's a much bigger claim, and that's the one I need to be honest with you about. So let's break this down into 3 categories. Every episode I do this, but today I'm doing it first, and I'm doing it in 3 tiers because the material genuinely comes from 3 different places, and blending them would be a little bit dishonest. So we're going to start with tier 1. What is established? Bidirectional signaling between organs in the brain. the vagal traffic, the enteric nervous system, referred pain patterns. That chronic stress physiology produces real, measurable effects on gut function, cardiac function, immune function, and hormone rhythm. That emotional distress presents physically, that's not fringe. That's the bulk of primary care. That is solid ground. Everything in that paragraph you can look up in a physiology textbook. Let's move on to tier 2. What's traditional? The specific pairings of liver with anger, kidney with fear, lung with grief come from Chinese medicine. Thousands of years of clinical observation on 2/3 of the world's population, organized into a 5-element framework. It's so beautiful. Wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. I want to be precise about what this is and what it isn't. It is an enormous, coherent, internally consistent body of clinical observation, refined over a very long time by people who were paying extremely close attention to their patients. That deserves a ton of respect. It's also not the same thing as a controlled trial, and the liver in that system is not identical to the organ your hepatologist is looking at. It's a functional category, a set of processes and its relationships. When the traditional person says, or the tradition says liver, it means something broader than the thing that lives right under your right ribs. Anyone tells you these correspondences are proven is overselling, but they are. The research is in progress. I'm so excited about it. And anyone tells you they're worthless is dismissing a very large amount of careful observation because it didn't arrive in a format that they recognize. Let's talk about tier 3. What's mine? I spent 20 years with my hands on people, working 30 years in the health and wellness industry, trained in chiropractic, applied kinesiology, exercise physiology, acupuncture. I used an emotional framework technique that's chiropractic called neuroemotional technique, which formalizes a lot of these pairings for clinical use. When I say I can feel something in the tissue and it corresponds to something a patient hasn't told me yet, that's my clinical experience. And clinical experience is the weakest form of evidence that there is. I know that. It's subject to confirmation bias, to my own expectations, to the fact that I'm asking leading questions without meaning to, and to the plain fact that I remember the times I was right much more than I do when I wasn't. I told you in episode 4 that I'll sometimes look at a set of results and hear what I describe as a silent scream over the kidney. That sentence is tier 3 entirely. There's no instrument that measures it. And if I put 20 practitioners in a room with the same patient, I would bet money that we'd all hear the same thing. I still use it because it can be one of the most useful tools to me. And because it has pointed me at things I would have otherwise missed. But I'm telling you which shelf it actually sits on. So here's how I'd ask you to hold this whole episode. This is a map. The map is a set of questions, not a set of answers. It's a prompt. It tells you where to look, not what you'll find. If the map says grief and you look and there's no grief, the map was wrong. That's allowed. It's allowed a lot. So let's talk about the map. Okay, right. With all of that on the table, here's the chart. Let me show it real quick. Okay, we're going to go over this though verbally. Okay. Liver and gallbladder. The emotions of anger, frustration, irritation, impatience, blame, resentment, and revenge. The whole cluster from rung 15 to rung 19 sits in what would be called wood. Where this shows up is so cool. It shows up in the right ribs, the jaw, the temples, the right shoulder, and the shoulder blade. It's a tight neck, a bitter taste, waking up somewhere in the small hours and being unable to get back down to sleep. It also shows up in somebody who's always talking really loud. Wood is the element of movement and direction, of all the things going where they're meant to go, which is why the emotion of wood or blocked wood is frustration. Frustration is the feeling of a direction meeting some sort of obstruction. Clinically, one of the most consistent pairings on this whole chart in my experience, and it's the one that most physiological plausibility, they tend to hang on it. Anger has a well-characterized physiology, clenched jaw, muscle bracing along the right side, and the whole sympathetic package just on board. And the gallbladder's referral pattern to the right shoulder blade is textbook. The question this rung asks, though, is what am I not allowed to say? Frustration is almost always a direction with something in front of it. You can't get anywhere. Let's move on to fire. That's heart, small intestine, pericardium, and triple warmer. The emotions of love and joy on top, and jealousy and vulnerability, and hope and boredom down lower. That looks a little like a strange collection until you understand that fire in this system isn't one organ. It's 4 functions, and they're about connection. Opening to it and protecting yourself from it. Been there, done that. Where does it show up? It shows up in the chest, in the sternum, in sleep onset problems, a guarded feeling in the chest, hot then cold, palpitations without a real cardiac cause. The pericardium is the sac that sits around the heart. It's the heart's protector. In this framework, it carries jealousy and the specific pain of being open to someone and getting hurt, which is an elegant piece of thinking. Whatever else you can make of it, the organ whose literal job is shielding the heart carries the emotion of a heart that needed shielding. The triple warmer has no real Western anatomy equivalent to it. It's a regulatory function, endocrine, it's thermal. The coordination of other systems, it's where hopefulness and boredom live on the chart. And both of those states are where the head has run ahead of the body, or the body has energy but nowhere to put it. The question that these rungs ask is, am I protecting something that no longer needs protecting? Happens to a lot of us, right? Let's move on to spleen, pancreas, and stomach. Love treating these. The emotions of worrying, overthinking, rumination, overwhelm, pessimism, and discouragement. This is the busiest section of my chart, and I don't think that's an accident. Look at rungs 9, 11, 14, and 16. Pessimism, overwhelm, worry, and discouragement. Gotta show you it, right? It shows up in this, where does it show up? And it shows up in the stomach, obvious gut churn. We've been there, right? We've all had a gut churn. Waking up at 3 a.m, the sugar cravings, foggy head, heavy limbs, appetite is just gone, or an appetite that's absolutely insatiable. An epigastric knot. That hard spot just below the sternum that people don't even realize they press with their thumb while they're telling you about their work week. Earth is digestion, not just food. It's of experience. It's taking in and breaking down, extracting what's useful and letting the rest go. Does that sound like digestion in your life? That's why they're connected. Worry is what happens when that process runs on something it can't break down. You take in the problem and you chew on it and you chew and nothing comes out of it. That becomes rumination. And we just use the same word for what a cow does when they chew on grass. Pretty cool. This is the pairing with the most modern support behind it, because now they're studying the gut-brain axis. It's serious and it's an active field. Anxiety and gut dysfunction travel together so reliably that arguing about what causes it is mostly just a waste of everybody's time. The question this rung is going to ask you is, what am I trying to digest and I can't break down? Or what can I stomach? Let's move on to metal. This is the fall season, and if you're right on time, we're moving in here in the fall. The emotions that go with lung and large intestine are grief, disappointment is in the lung. Guilt, insecurity, and unworthiness are in the large intestine. Where does it show up? That shallow, high breathing in the chest. A held breath. Have you met those people and they just don't have time, blah, 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 blah? Or they're like holding their breath and they don't talk, sighing, upper back, skin. The large intestine, lower gut, bowel changes, a physical churn of shame. Metal's about letting go. The lung takes in and releases with every breath. The large intestine's entire job is deciding what is finished and what are we letting go of. So the emotions of metal are the emotions of things not yet released. Grief is love with nowhere to go. And guilt, is the thing you did that hasn't been allowed to be finished. And the breathing pattern of grief is genuinely distinctive. Anyone who sat with someone in acute grief has seen it. The breath goes in high and shallow and stops from going all the way down. That one you can watch happen in real time. I'll flag my own rung here again because it lives in metal. We're going to see how I do this fall. Is it going to fall off? Or, yeah. Guilt is my motivation in human design. It's rung 21 and large intestine. Guilt as discernment moves you. Guilt as a debt keeps you where you are. And when I'm carrying the debt version, my lower gut is where I feel it. It doesn't move. I literally got a enema bag for my 30th birthday. Was I living through some guilt there? I'm going to say yeah. It happens in the body before I start noticing it in my life. Check the body. It will always tell you. The question that this rung asks you is, what am I not finished with? Kidney and bladder. The emotions are fear, powerlessness, and doubt. The bottom of the ladder. Whew, it's heavy. Where it shows up is the low back, cold feet, urgency, flat adrenals, thin breath. That specific hollow exhaustion where you don't want to do anything but just sleep. Water is the reserves. It's deep storage. What you draw on when there's nothing left. And the adrenal glands sit physically on top of the kidneys, which is a coincidence I've never been able to fully talk myself out of finding super interesting. Fear and powerlessness, man, are the emotion of a depleted reserve, not the sharp fear of an actual emergency. That's fire, that's fast. This is low. Chronic fear of a person whose tank has already been empty for a long time. And who knows, somewhere, their belief system is that they cannot meet anything that's coming. I've been in that one myself, and I described it in episode 3 in almost those words before I even thought about which element it belonged to. Adrenals flat, head was literally spinning, and there was no power left, and all I wanted to do was sleep. The question this rung asked me was, what have I been running on empty? A lot of stuff. The reverse. Lookup. Now here's how I actually want you to use this. It's backwards from how everybody expects you to. Don't start with the emotion. We're going to start with the sensation, because sometimes you just can't figure out the emotion, or it's not really telling you the truth, or you're not telling yourself. Because if I ask you really how you're feeling, you're going to tell me some story, and you're going to give me the answer that you rehearsed, or the acceptable version, or the version that makes sense of your week. Everybody does this. I do it too. And I teach this. So like I'm coherent about it. I'm acknowledging it. I'm seeing it. But if I ask you where, that question is much harder to answer dishonestly. The body hasn't rehearsed anything. So something's off rather than asking, what am I feeling? I want you to try, where is it? Point at it. Actually, like literally point at it. What's the quality? Does it feel tight, hollow, hot, heavy? Ooh, the churn in your tummy. When is it? What time? What day? Part of the month? And what happened right before it started? Not that day, kind of the half hour before. And then, only then, look at the map and see what it suggests and treat what it suggests as a question you get to answer for yourself. No verdicts, no judgment here. A real example of the shape of this. Somebody notices the same tight band under their right ribs most weekdays, arriving late in the afternoon. The map says would. Would asks, what am I not allowed to say? Turns out the late afternoon is when the emails come from one particular person. Now, did the liver tell me that? No. Did the map diagnose anything? No. What the map did was hand them a better question to ask. Why am I so tense? And the better question found the answer in about 4 days. That's the honest description of what these tools do. It's a question generator. That's not a small thing. Most people are stuck because they're asking a question that has no answer, not because they're incapable of finding one. So the line, and now the part of the episode that I care about the most. So I'm going to slow down. Every single thing on the chart also has a symptom of something that needs a doctor. Right-sided rib pain on my chart under wood, it also has gallstones and hepatitis and the things I don't want to list at you. Low back pain with urinary changes on my chart underwater, it's also a kidney infection and a stone. And with the wrong neurological signs along it, a spinal emergency that has a window measured in hours. Chest tightness on my chart under fire. I don't need to finish that sentence. Get to the hospital. Bowel changes are on my chart under metal. Bowel changes that persist. Get them investigated every time. No exceptions, no interpretations, no 5-element reading first. So here's the rule, and it's a non-negotiable. This map is for what's left over. It's never the first step. And it's never a substitute for being examined. Anything new, anything persistent, anything progressive, anything severe, anything that wakes you up from sleep, anything accompanied by weight loss or a fever, that's not a meridian. That's an appointment, and make it today. If it's been properly looked at and everything came back clean and it's still there, that's when the chart earns its place. That's the whole design of the show. The third floor is for what's left over after the first two have been checked. And this map is the third floor. I genuinely rather you overuse the medical system because of something I said than be poetic about something serious. If in doubt, get it looked at, then come back to the map. So we're going to close. So your practice this week. It's 1 page. It takes about 5 minutes a day. It's called the body log. For 7 days, once a day, write 4 lines. Got your pen? Where? Point it out, then write it down where you pointed. What's the quality? Just one word. Is it tight? Is it hollow? Is it hot? Is it heavy? Is it churning? What time did it happen? And what happened the half hour before? The most insignificant thing. I mean, think an email. You're like, oh, I checked my email. Okay, then what happened in the email? Who showed up? Who did you see pass by your thing? What do you go do right before that happens? I need you to change nothing and fix nothing, just collecting information because you need data that's consistent to make sure that you're on the right path. At the end of the week, read it back and look for the repeat, not the dramatic day, the repeat, the same place, the same quality, the same hour. And then once you've found the repeat, look at the map and let it hand you a question. That's the whole assignment, not a diagnosis, just a better question than the one you've been asking. I want to leave you with the thing that keeps me interested in this material after 20 years. And it's not the mysticism, but I do love some mysticism. It's that the body reports before the mind admits. This is one I am working on for years on myself. I've watched it hundreds of times. The shoulder goes before the resignation letter. The gut goes before the conversation. The breath goes high in the chest weeks before anybody says the word grief out loud. Not because the tissue is magic, because the tissue isn't managing an image that you are. Your body has no stake in you looking good or fine. It's the only part of you that isn't performing. So whatever you make of the elements, and you're allowed to make very little of them. I've told you exactly what shelf they're on. Keep this part. Your symptom is often the first honest thing in the room. Not the whole truth, not a diagnosis, but the first thing that just stop pretending. I need you to listen to it, get it properly examined, and then ask it a better question. Freedom is not a rung. It's your relationship to the whole ladder. If I can drive that home to you. Find the floor, work the throw, and when something in you speaks up before you do, don't rush it to explain it away. That's the art. That's the becoming. Do it again tomorrow. This has been the practice. Thank you.